The great ban wave of Season 7 that, interestingly enough, seems to target players in the public eye more than those who would seemingly actually deserve it. We've seen streamers and even a pro player suspended from competitive play, something none of us really thought to be all that likely. I mean, sure, it's not the first case of a pro player being actioned on, but the reasoning to many seems arbitrary. What even constitutes as disruptive gameplay, and how is reporting players who throw matches repeatedly abusing the report system anyway? What can I get banned for when playing Overwatch competitively today? Well, we got an interesting discussion here in which I'm going to attempt to answer these things at the best of my capability. But first, some context. The most prominent case of multiple question marks would be the recent 3-day suspension of XQC, popular streamer as well as player for the Dallas Fuel Overwatch League team. Now, I do understand that for many players who watch XQC regularly, it's difficult to give it a bit more of an objective look and see what he has been suspended for. And in this case, it's important to talk about two things in particular: the disciplinary action itself, as well as the severity of the punishment. Not everyone is arguing that XQC did not deserve the suspension. He is playing a character on stream that likes to get very vocal about things he does not like. Chat quotes that show him clearly attacking and insulting other players in his matches are nothing new. Now, I want to explicitly state that I do not believe any of these things to matter in the context of him as a person or a pro player. He is a content creator, and as such is playing a role, as pretty much every other content creator does. It does not tell you anything about him as a person, let alone a pro player. However, it is absolutely fair to judge him as a content creator, as this is the character he chose to represent him and his brand in the public eye. Thus, it does not matter at all what he is like as a person or a player, because he's being judged as a content creator. And this is where the whole thing gets a little more blurry, because you would think that these things don't matter, but as a player for not only a professional team but also the Overwatch League, he is representing Dallas Fuel and Blizzard itself to a greater extent. XQC is going to be held to a higher standard because he's no longer only representing himself and his own brand, and I think you can imagine why Blizzard does not want to have one of their own league players angrily shout into their microphone about how the report system does nothing while actively abusing it and thus contributing to the system being more cluttered and subsequently less effective. A lot of reports coming from XQC were very well warranted, and his argument that it's ridiculous how players can throw games for literal months before seeing as little as a 24-hour suspension if action is ever taken at all is very solid as well. But fact is that he has been abusing the system over and over again. He typed some nonsense into the description box for reports, insulted players in it, and repeatedly reported others for the sole reason that he thinks they are bad at the game, while telling an audience of thousands of people that the system does nothing anyway. He has been contributing to the myth that reporting is useless when Blizzard kept trying to tell us how many players have been actioned on, but we as players never believed them. If this streamer can get toxic and abuse the report system, and this other streamer can throw matches and not get banned, so can I. Streamers, along with YouTubers, have been contributing to the ever-decreasing quality of matches in competitive play by spouting half-truths as well as outright lies about several in-game systems, and they had the audacity to claim knowledge of their effectiveness when they know absolutely nothing at all. Now, this is not me saying that the system works flawlessly, because it doesn't. Every system has flaws, and a lot of us would love to have certain things handled differently than they are right now, but in the case of XQC, we have seen the worst case scenario. And what happened to him was honestly something he had a long time coming. I do commend him for publicly apologizing on his Twitter account and hope that this is the first step forward towards improving himself as a content creator and properly representing his team and the league itself without completely throwing away what made him such a successful entertainer. Think about XQC what you want, but he is undeniably an amazing Overwatch player and a great entertainer. However, he is in a position where the things he did would eventually catch up to him, and I think he realized that by now. Now, enough about XQC. What about the other streamers that have gotten suspensions for disruptive gameplay? There has been many arguments claiming that these bans were unjustified, while others claim it's ridiculous that they only got 24 hours, whereas XQC has been suspended for 72. Personally, I would assume that the severity of the punishment stems from XQC's position as an Overwatch League player, whereas others have only seen a 24-hour suspension as a warning. I have not heard of any subsequent actions taken thus far, but it is fair to assume that players who repeatedly get reported for disruptive disruptive gameplay will eventually face an increase in severity for the punishment, or so we hope. Now what you have to understand is that when it comes to the players who have been suspended, their attitude had nothing to do with the ban. Your argument of they were always nice people holds no weight in this discussion. However, this is quite a double-edged sword because we are talking about content creators here. We'll get into what exactly disruptive gameplay is in a second, but let's talk about why banning these particular content creators is potentially a big deal. When it comes to one-tricking in Overwatch, streamers have always been a bit of an anomaly. Where others would usually throw a fit over someone playing Symmetra or Torbjorn only, the reputation of the streamer in question would often decide how they react. They would either try to play around them because they know that these streamers are really good on these particular heroes, or, and this is the concerning part, they would react even more aggressively because they don't like them. Now, me as a third party who watches a lot of streams and kept seeing both of these things play out, I honestly think it's kinda scary. Part of me kept thinking, what is the difference between this guy and any other random guy that does not want to swap off of Torbjorn? And honestly, there is not much of a difference at all. The only difference is their reputation. So is it fair that these guys win more matches because their reputation suggests that playing around them is a good idea? Well, that is a question that all of you will have to answer for yourselves, but I think it is fair to assume that they lose just as many matches simply because they are who they are. And it does not even matter that they are known as that streamer that only plays Symmetra, because it is very common for people to throw matches when encountering a content creator of any sort that they don't like. So the problem I see here is that these particular content creators could face an unjustified amount of reports of players who honestly just don't like them and their content. And it is easy to assume that these reports are warranted when they appear next to genuine reports for disruptive gameplay. Okay, so let's talk about the nature of the report itself. What even is disruptive gameplay? Honestly, it's exactly what it sounds like, and many players like to overcomplicate the issue by throwing in 100 niche case scenarios. If you, as a player, refuse to be part of the team and work together, you're disrupting the competitive experience and put your team at a severe disadvantage. One-tricks are inherently disruptive to the competitive experience, and thus it should come to nobody's surprise that these suspensions have been handed out as a sort of slap on the hand. Players need to understand that Overwatch is about adapting and working together. The "I can't play anything else" excuse needs to go away because it does not hold any water. Of course you can play something else, you just decided to spend all your time trying to play the win rate lottery rather than playing the game properly. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having main heroes you are really good on, but admitting to your pick not working and swapping to something that helps your team more is inherent to competitive play. And again, all these niche case scenarios people keep bringing up, why is everyone acting like you can't talk to your team? I know why, because we keep expecting each other to be toxic at all times without giving each other a chance. Most of the time when I try to pull an off-meta hero, I just talk to my team about it. They didn't always agree with me, but that is also not the point. If my team feels that the hero I propose could be of benefit to us because I've been making a case for it and assure them of my expertise, then they will have no problem with me playing it. It just takes me not being an idiot and realizing when it's not working. It's the stubbornness of not swapping off of something that is clearly being countered that annoys people, not necessarily the pick itself. And in a team game, when 5 people say that they don't like your pick and they have no desire to play around you, then yes, in that match you should not be playing that hero. You, I, and the next guy will not like to do that, because sometimes those 5 guys are wrong. But in a team-based game, especially one that relies on your team working together as much as it does like an Overwatch, it is the team's call and not your own. And it is this inherently selfish attitude of, I will play what I want, screw the team, that is ruining the core competitive experience. Sure, I will have matches where my team does not want to let me try something weird, and I have just as many matches where they do, and even more matches where playing something weird is not even a question that's on the table to begin with. And honestly, the whole discussion around they never specified how we're supposed to play the game is about as stupid as it gets. I get that now, to many, it's a bit confusing because they let us do whatever for so long, and so many players have been contributing to wrong practices that it's hard to tell for them what even is the proper way of playing, at least to a certain extent. But how hard is it to look at this game and realize that it's about team play and adaptation? I mean, it says right on the box that it's a team-based shooter, and it's allowing you to change characters at all times throughout the match. What's causing the real confusion here is that players don't actually want to play for the team, they want to play for their own elo. And that kind of attitude simply has no place in this game. Everyone is supposed to work together, and that obviously goes both ways. You're not gonna be able to force someone into a role they hate faith even when all 5 members speak in favor of it, just as much as you won't convince 5 guys to play around your off-meta pick when they already agreed to another plan. Find a middle ground, treat each other as equals rather than thinking that you alone always know what the best course of action is. I could keep ranting on about this and how it's often just a matter of persuasion and conviction, but honestly, sometimes people are just looking too much for gray zones. Yes, there are scenarios where you doing this over that makes more sense. There are scenarios where what I'm saying does not hold true, the world is not black and white, blah blah blah. But eventually, we should learn to not overcomplicate the issue. It's a team game. Play for the team and not for yourself. It's not about your elo, your win rate, your ego, and your bragging rights. Every match is about your team versus the enemy team. Just please try to treat it as such. And with that off my chest, I'm calling it a day. Thanks for watching my video on the recent Season 7 ban wave, my thoughts and attempts to explain everything to the best of my capability. If you want to discuss anything mentioned in today's video, feel free to do so down in the comment section below. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to see you all next time.